On today's show, we'll be baking cider brined pork chops with a mixture of hearty greens. All right, let's get started with our brine for the pork. Now, when you brine pork chops, what you're doing is you're adding these flavors. It's like a marinade, except that it has a whole lot more liquid. And you're going to allow it to sit anywhere from 2 to 4 to 24 hours. I'm going to be using a mixture of apple cider as well as a little water, and I'm going to be using what we call mirepoix. Now, mirepoix is a French term, and what it is it's just a mixture of celery, carrots, and onions. So we're gonna make this mirepoix and we're gonna throw it into the pot. Now, not all brines do you have to cook, but I am going to actually bring mine up to slight, maybe medium heat so that the sugar and the salt dissolve, because that's what's going to brine the pork chops. And I'm going to be using a thicker cut of pork chops rather than a thinner cut of pork chops, because I want those juices and flavors from the brine to hold. So I'm not peeling these carrots, I'm just gonna throw them right in, because we just wanna extract all the flavor, vitamins, and nutrients from it. All right, so let's get these into the pot. There we go. They just roll everywhere, don't they? It's actually kind of funny. Okay, so we've got our, and when I take the celery, because I know it's just going into a brine, I'm just gonna use all of it. It's not gonna get bitter, right? Just take off those ends, and then we just toss them into the pot. Now, it's up to you. Every brine is different. You can brine using salt. You can brine any type of meat that you want to. It sort of just, like I say, adds flavor. I am going to use cider because I want that sweet. And then when you think, traditionally pork is served with apples, so I might as well infuse some sort of apple flavor into it. I'm also going to add in a chopped onion. And now I'm not going to put oil in there because we don't need it. It's just going to be water. I'm going to add a garlic. I'm going to take the garlic, I'm going to leave it just like this. I'm not going to peel it, I'm just going to cut it. There we are. Just going to open it so that the flavor of the garlic can come out. That's all. We're going to add that. Get the rest of these cloves. All right, so we have that. All right. And everything else can pretty much be tossed in as is. So we have here our brown sugar. There we go, that was packed. We have, and it looks like a lot of salt, and you think pork and salt, but the water, as well as the sugar, as well as the cider, is going to bring that salt taste way down. Now, brining used to be used as a method of preserving meats and holding it longer. It allowed you to keep the meat longer, and I'm sure that that had to do with the salt content. So I've just added some whole peppercorns. I'm using a mixture, black as well as the pink, and these are juniper berries, dried juniper berries. I just sort of kind of like the flavor that they offer. I'm going to use 1 bay leaf, which we will remove later. You know, let's use this. And now I'm just going to toss these around just a little bit before I add everything else. All right, now you don't have to cook all of this stuff together, but I just happen to like bringing mine up to a temperature so that the sugar and the salt are completely dissolved as they are here. And then I will add my fresh thyme to it. All right, so we're just gonna do, you know what, let's just do this sprig right here. I'm just gonna spread it. There we are. I think we are good. Now we want to add the water and the apple cider. I'm going to turn off the burner because, again, we're not cooking this. We just want to make sure that those items dissolve. Going to add here some apple cider. Chug-a-lug. And I'm going to add a little water. Okay, a lot of water. All right, the important thing here is that we get all of this stirred together. And it really does smell terrific. Now, you want to let this, let's see, I'm going to look at there. See, that temperature is so doable. But you want to let that come to a room temperature. You can even use ice to bring that down, which is what I'm going to use to bring that temperature down. And then you put your pork in. If you put your pork in while it's still hot, you're going to start cooking your pork, and you can potentially dry it out, which the whole point of brining is to add the flavor so that the juices remain in the pork when you sear it and cook it. All right, so I have here a pot of ice, or a bowl of ice, and we are going to pour in our brine. There we are. And I'm just going to stir. This is wonderful. And I'm using my hand on the side of the bowl, and I'm gauging that temperature. So this is perfect. So now I'm going to take my pork, and you want to get your, like I say, 2 nice, good, thick pieces. You can do pieces thicker than what I have here, but this is going to be sufficient. So we have our pork, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the pork into the brine. And make sure that the pork is completely submerged in it. It's just covered. So I could add maybe about 2 more pieces to this, which is great. So we're gonna make sure that this gets into the refrigerator. I'm gonna sit it over to the side so we can get it in the refrigerator, and I'm going to pull out the pork that has already been in the brine for 24 hours. So put this in the fridge 24 hours. You're gonna love it. Okay, now that we have the pork in the brine and it's in the refrigerator, we've pulled out the one that has been in the brine for 24 hours. Now, if you're using water and you're having company over, or and you have it heavily salted, that's fine. You can do the 2 hours or the 4 hours or the 6 hours. I prefer mine 24 hours just to ensure that all the flavors I'm looking for are there. But remember, it's up to you how long you want to brine. Now, I'm going to take out our pork chop, and I'm keeping an eye because that pan is really hot and ready. You want to take the pork chop out, and this is important. You want to pat it dry. So we have it out of the brine. All of these things can be discarded. We're not going to need them. So I'm going to move that out the way, and I'm going to pat the porks dry. Now my pan is a little hot for me, so let's swap out. There we go. That just gives me a little more time to chat with you. So we have the pork, and we are Just gonna pat them dry. All right, so let's swap that. All right, let's get our pan back hot. We have it on. I've drizzled some oil in there. I'm gonna drizzle a little bit on the pork. Now, what I want you to also remember is in the brine was brown sugar. It was also apple cider. The apple cider contains sugars as well, so it's going to make the pork get very dark and crispy, which is great because that's what we want. We're gonna mellow it all out with a sauce at the end that you are going to just love. So we're gonna put this in the pan. How awesome is that sizzle? All right, and there's our other one. And let's get rid of these things. All right, and let's get our tongs. All right, now the important thing here is to allow the pork to become this gorgeous, dark, caramelized piece of meat on all sides. So we're gonna use our tongs, we're gonna stand it up, we're gonna turn it all around, and we're not trying to cook the pork. Neither do we want to dry it out. So it's not gonna cook thoroughly. We're gonna finish these in the oven. So let me just take a peek. Perfect. Let's turn that over. Look at that. This is just what we want. We want this nice, beautiful, beautiful color. Now you can use a grease protector to put on top of here if you'd like. I'm used to being here. These are beautiful, and see that crispy texture there? Just what I like, yeah. Now that we've got a nice sear on both sides, we're gonna sear that fatty exterior of the pork chop. And that's important because you wanna render some of that fat off and make it nice and crispy. So you can use your pan, the sides of it, to hold it up if you'd like that. You're welcome to do that. I'm gonna use it and I'm gonna put them right in the center. So we're gonna sear up that fat, get it nice and crispy and flavorful, render some of that off. All righty, look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Hey, they look like snail. They look like some snails, like going to town, right? Now we're going to lay these pork chops down. We're going to get them in the oven. You're gonna have your oven temperature set at about 400 to 425. Only do this for about 7 to 8 minutes, no longer. If you want to check it with a thermometer, you can. The perfect cooking temperature for the pork to be consumed is 145 degrees, but you don't want to leave it in the oven until it reaches that. You want to take it out just at about 137 to 139, and then the residual heat will finish cooking it and bring it up to the 145 that will make you feel nice and safe. So we're gonna take a break. I'm gonna get these into the oven and we will be right back to get started on our hearty greens. Check out Simply Fresh Food with Chef Renee to learn new delicious recipes. Watch as I show you how to use fresh ingredients for healthy eating at every meal. Check your local listings for showtimes. We're going to get started on our hearty greens that go with that cider brined pork. In this bowl, I have a mixture of shredded Brussels sprouts, a little bit of red cabbage. We have some kale. Everything's diced and chopped up very nicely for us. That's going to be really quick. We do want it to hold its shape, so we're not going to cook them for long. So I have the pan on. I'm going to drizzle in some garlic infused olive oil. Now here also sometimes I drizzle in a red pepper infused garlic olive oil to add some extra flavor. So let's get those on. Now, it doesn't take a lot of these to cook down, but the reason that we're going to use so much is because we have something special at the end. So I'm just putting that on, put the bowl away. Here are my fresh tongs. Let's add a little bit of salt and pepper before we do that. And I bought these really already made, shredded and cut up, and you can do that. A lot of supermarkets are now carrying the things called power greens, which has the chard, spinach, and kale inside of it. But you also can get this kind, and they usually refer to this one as a Asian blend, but you can buy any package type of green, but I use a hearty one for the pork because it's going to sit for just a moment. So let's get this all stirred up. Okay, so all right, and I like them just like that. We don't need to do anything else to it except taste some. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, and we have a plate here so we can add them onto the plate. Delicious. All right, so we're gonna get these out of the pan. Fabulous. That is so beautiful. Now I'm making room for something else to go on that plate. Now we're going to drizzle a little more oil into the pan. And we are going to add here, I have diced red potatoes that are parboiled. And what that means is that they've been partially cooked, partially boiled. And what I did is I took the red potatoes and I sliced off the ends so I could stand it up, and I just dropped my knife down a few times, and then I diced them up. I put on some salted water and let it come to a boil, and then I put the potatoes in really quickly for a little bit, and I took them right out and immersed them in ice water so that they can stop the cooking, because I wanted to saute them as a garnish for this dish, but also it gives a little bit of starch for folks who might be missing something. All right, so I'm gonna get those into the pan. Now while that's sizzling, I'm going to add salt and a little pepper. And there we are. Now while we're waiting for those potatoes to brown, let's check on our pork in the oven, which should be nice and ready. All right, and we do have them here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Let's get a plate, because what we want to do next, and let me show you this. I'm going to turn on the burner, but the reason I'm turning on the burner is not to cook the pork anymore. It's all done, it's all set. These have been resting for a little bit because we turned the oven off and let them rest. All right, so we're gonna remove these, and then we'll get started with our brown butter and cherry sauce. So let's put these on a plate. Wonderful. Now, it is important that you do pour the oil off because you're going to add butter to this. So I'm going to pour off that oil. Now, if you want, you can save it, but I'm not going to save it, so we're just going to go with it. Let's check on our potatoes, though. Look at that. They're getting this nice, crispy coating and color that I really want. And they're partially cooked, remember. So we don't have to worry about biting into a very hard potato. All right. And the sauce that we create is going to be used for both the pork as well as the potatoes. So let's get started with our butter. Okay, so we're going to put some butter, just a little bit. No, we're going to use a lot of butter. Okay, look at there. Run! No. So we have some butter there. And we're going to add some, let's move that up a little bit. That's hot. Gonna add some fresh thyme. Let's get that stirred around. All right, and we're going to add in some tart dried cherries. I really like these. I love them in my oatmeal. Let's get that stirred up in there. And we just want to get all that melted. And then we're going to add the pork chops back in and start basting them. I am going to add a little bit of oil to the pan of the garlic infused oil. Now this separated just a little bit. It smells so good. I'm gonna cheat and use some. I'm gonna go ahead. You do it too. Nobody will ever know. There we are. Hear that? Yay! Okay. So we're gonna get that all cooked up. Yay! All right. Now, we're going to put back, oh, that smells so good. You think I like butter? All right, so I'm going to get the pork chops in there. And we are going to let's take a spoon. And we're just going to glaze these over and baste them. Look at that. Yes. Delicious. Look at that. Yum, yum. I'm going to turn off the burner because I don't want the pork chops to overcook. So, because remember, they are already done. Cannot wait to get into these. Fabulous. Isn't that gorgeous? Absolutely beautiful. Now, let's check on our potatoes. Wonderful. Now, if you want, you can hit these up a little bit with some more salt, or if you're brave, you can hit them up with some red pepper flakes. I'm going to go with the salt. A little bit more. There we are. And we are good. They are nice, and they are the texture that I am looking for. So let's get that out of the pan and onto the plate. Wonderful. Now, we have one last thing to prepare before plating. So I am going to move this plate so we can take care of that. And I'm going to move these things. And what we have left is our spinach. Spinach. There we are. All right, so I'm gonna drizzle a little bit more oil. This is going to be really quick, and then we're going to start plating. And then we're gonna do my favorite, which is eating. All right, so let's see. I'm going to scoop in our spinach. And you know that the spinach cooks down very quickly. I'm not trying to make it wilt completely. I want a beautiful plate. This is how you impress your guest here at this phase. I'm gonna move the spinach over. I'm not gonna need that much. Have your plate ready, or your plates, for when you have your guests there. All right. Oh, look at me. Look at me. There we are. I'm serious about being ready. Yep. Okay, so we're just going to turn this over a little bit. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of salt, a little bit of fresh ground pepper, and we are good to go. And notice my burner is off. It is off. It's saying hot. Of course, he could be talking about me. All right, there we go. A little bit of pepper, not much. All right, and this is where you want your spinach, right here at this point, right here. So I'm gonna take a scoop of spinach, my nice, wonderful spinach, and you know it cooks down. So we're gonna have some spinach there. We're gonna take some of the greens. Look at that in the center. Yes, lovely. Okay, I'm gonna do just a little bit more. In addition to that, we are going to capture the star of the show right here. Piece of pork chop. Look at that. Woohoo, woohoo. And I'm going to scoop some potatoes on top, and they can fall to the side, to the left, to the left. Okay, so now to flavor up those potatoes, let's take this whole pan. This is us flavoring up the potatoes. Now I have one other thing that I like to do because I love color. So I have here some roasted tomatoes. And I am just going to take a tomato. I'm gonna add it right there. And I roasted them with olive oil. So that is sufficient for me. And look what we have here. Oh, gotta garnish. Okay, that's plenty for me. I'm good, I'm good. So what we've prepared today is our cider brined pork chop with our hearty greens, a little bit of spinach, a little bit of garnish, kind of fancied it up. And here's the important part. Let me taste it. I just want a little piece. Look at that. Delicious on all sides. Got a little bit of pork. This is fabulous. You are going to love it. Your friends, your family, anyone you invite in, they are going to love this. It's very tasty and it's very healthy for you. And it's very affordable for you. I want to thank you today for allowing me to come into your kitchen. I also would like to thank the sponsors of this show. And for this episode and many others, you can join us at wintv.org. Or to check out the recipes, join me at www.simplyfreshfoodwithchefrenee.com. And I will see you next time in the kitchen.
Simply Fresh Food with Chef Renee is sponsored by Newgate Farms, with farms located in Connecticut and New York. Woolwrap Cookware. Check them out online at Woolwrap University. And Red Tail Heart, available online or at your local bookstore.